Intelligent Ramblings with your host, Bill Lofton. Co-hosted by Gary Glenn and William Howington with help from John Cohn.
Well, welcome to Intelligent Ramblings. I'm Bill Lofton.
Bill.
I'm the host, and with John Cohn, soon to be joined by Mr. Gary Glenn eventually. William Howington is out on assignment and won't be here this week, so we'll just have to figure out how to get through it without him. John, how's your week been so far?
It's gone great. You couldn't ask for better weather, and I am just loving it. It's one of my favorite times of year.
Oh, I'll have to second that. It's been beautiful. I got a little bit sweaty about the idea that I was watching the news, or I heard it, the news was on or something, and I heard in the 20s. And I went, what? The 20s? It's going to drop down to the 20s. Of course, that meant the 20s up in the mountains in North Carolina. And they always do that. They always predict the lowest temperature they can come up with, and it's going to be close. And they say that out. Our low got down to 30. I have tomato plants that are about that big right now, and I don't plan on putting them into the ground. They're in my greenhouse right now. I really don't plan on putting them into the ground until the second week in April. I want to make sure I don't have to worry about frost or anything, but I was worried about them being in my greenhouse. Even in the greenhouse, when you hit 20 degrees, that could freeze inside the greenhouse. And look at here.
Hey, Gary.
Gary.
I've been trying to get on for 10 minutes.
Well, you're on. That's what counts. And we were just talking about the late freeze we had. You like my background?
That's an awesome background.
It's an awesome background.
It's quite the update.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. But
it is pretty cool.
Well, guess what? Texas can lock up illegal immigrants. You know what? I don't have a problem with it. And I do believe in states' rights. I don't like New York saying this is the way to do things, and they expect us to do it the way they do it in the New York way. So I'm going to have to say way to go for that. Could you imagine that those amounts of immigrants coming into Savannah or Augusta or Atlanta and just going everywhere? Thousands. I mean, literally thousands of them coming at one time.
Well, why don't they come up through Baja, California?
That would be good.
Just saying.
We'd see how long the Californians stay liberal once they got invaded, because it's basically like an invasion. I don't like the way they're handling the water by any means, but just letting them come on in 10,000 a day ain't working.
Well, here's the thing. We know that they're coming here for jobs, and they're doing jobs that Americans don't want to do. I'm talking about regular Americans. And you break it down to a racial thing if you want to. White folks quit doing those jobs, and so did the black folks, and the Asians never did do them. So for the money they want to pay, I'm talking about industry now, that's why they're coming here. Now, if you want to keep doing those jobs, if you want to keep them, collecting our fruit and working in the carpet mills and the chicken plants and domestic services and construction, okay, why don't we do this? Why don't we get them into some kind of a work permit, not full citizenship, mind you. Now, that comes with special privileges, but get them into this, get them into the system, paying into the system, paying into Social Security, paying tax, paying income tax, And every dollar that gets sent out of the United States, and I don't care if it goes to Guatemala, Mexico, France, or Czechia, I don't care where it goes, it gets taxed. That helps pay for some of this stuff that they're having to furnish out. And then eventually you work your way up to full citizenship, then you get voting rights and all the things that American citizens have enjoyed for quite some time. That way you don't have to worry about undocumented illegals. Get them into the system and get the bad actors and find the people that want to work, let them stay in the country, and the people that don't want to work, or they're here to cause problems or run drugs, stuff like that, we get rid of them just like we do all the other criminals. The fact that you want to work for a living and provide for your family is not a criminal offense. Now, being here illegally is a criminal offense, but maybe we do something to make that a little more palatable and put them on a path to citizenship. What's wrong with that idea? Somebody tell me.
I'm going to jump back to Bill's original point, which is local sheriffs can arrest illegal immigrants in Texas and fine. They will fill up the jailhouse in no time. And it makes great headlines. You know, oh, yay, Texas, we do whatever we want to. You know, we can thumb our nose at the government, but it's not gonna be nearly as big a deal as Greg Abbott would like to think it is. Joel makes says something that's valid. If they want to enter the country illegally, there's already a visa program and temporary work permits for people that want to come in.
Well,
I think they don't have them.
I'm going to say you're still encouraging them to come in illegally. We all are, in the form of the businesses that need immigrant work, like Gary was explaining earlier. They're coming in for a reason, and that's to get a job and make money.
Are you going to go work in those chicken plants and those carpet mills? Are you going to go pick those?
I am not. Those are dangerous.
I am not.
Unpleasant places to work.
I'm not, and I don't want any of my people doing that. But those are necessary jobs. If we're going to continue to eat chicken and put carpet in our homes and eat fruit, those are necessary jobs. The reason they're here is because American businesses have given them jobs. Okay, tell American businesses you can't give them any more jobs. Sooner or later, they'll quit coming. But they're going to keep coming as long as there's work. I mean, come on. Society, like nature, abhors a vacuum. And what we need to do is enforce the laws that are already on the books. Enforce the laws that are already on the books and make these people aware. It might be short-term. I don't know what, quite frankly, I'm not familiar with all of that. I don't know what short-term employment means. I let them stay as long as they were registered with some kind of registration. As long as they kept paying into the system, they may never become full citizens, but their children will. And that sooner or later,
what's happening here is
they should shut down the border. They should shut down the border and then start up back, letting them back in, but they don't get to get back in. And what you would do is have a bunch of businesses down there, say the chicken plants down there at the border, signing them up as they come in and saying, okay, your name is blah, 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 and here's your permit to work. We'll try you out for 2 weeks and see how that works. Turn around and hand the other slip to the government person and says, hey, this guy's got a permit to work for 2 weeks in my plant, and in 2 weeks, we'll either keep him or send him back to Mexico.
See, if reasonable people would get together and come to some conclusion, and John, I kind of agree with you about the fact that if you start putting them all in jail, all the jail's going to fill up really fast.
But they're not going to put them in jail. They're going to just put them on a bus and send them back to Mexico.
Well, here's
They're gonna take
really
them back
quick.
over the border.
Here's the bet that the illegals are making. It takes 6 to 8 years to get caught and deported when you get here illegally at this time. If you cross the border, it's not at a entry point, but somewhere out in the middle of the desert, and show up in Arkansas at a chicken plant or somewhere like that, 2 weeks later, they won't catch you for 6 or 8 years. And so they're betting they can work here for that long, send back a bunch of money, and leave before they ever get caught. And a lot of them are doing that. One of the things that was in the immigration bill in the Senate that Republicans and Democrats agreed on was that they would have a goal of catching them inside of 6 weeks. Now, nobody's going to come here and risk getting caught, deported for, the outlook of 6 to 8 weeks of work compared to 6 to 8 years. But we're back, here we are 30, 40 years without a real immigration policy that handles the facts on the ground. And what we have is the result of that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I see what Mr. Johnson has said about short-term employment, about the planting season. There ain't no season for chicken plants and carpet mills or domestic workers. And it puts a real face on it. As you know, I still teach some school. And I was in class the other day, and I overheard one of the boys talking about his father was not with him right now because he just got caught and deported. So
Andrea makes a good point that we think that the jobs that they're doing in our country are not fun, dirty, dangerous, whatever. They are like, I'm sure they're great jobs compared to what they had to deal with in their home country.
Right.
Just can't imagine living like that.
No. I mean, you're lucky if they only carjack you. They usually carjack you and shoot you.
Yeah.
I mean, we have no idea. We have no idea.
It's a horrible situation that they're coming from. I mean, could you imagine walking from Venezuela to Texas? Take you 2-3 months, and you have no money, so you're just trying to stay alive to make it to the promised land. I absolutely have sympathy for those people, but it's hurting our system. Something has to get done now.
Well, and they were trying to do that, and then it didn't happen. Look, I want to tell you, for the most part, something is better than nothing. And right now, we've got pretty much nothing that anybody can agree on. Okay, you say we've got laws in place, enforce the laws. Fine, let's do that. Who's going to do that?
Yeah, I do believe they're walking. What do you think?
Yeah, they are.
Some of them are.
How'd they get there? Hop on trains.
Yeah, they hop on trains. Some of them find a coyote that'll take them. And they'll cram 30 or 40 of them in the back of a truck. Yeah.
It's 100 degrees outside, and it's 125 in the back of that truck. Well, how a lot of them die.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of them die. They find that, I don't say all the time, but it's not that unusual. I mean, they obviously are risking a lot. Well, anyway, moving on. Trump
can't make his $460 million payment. 30 insurance companies rejected him trying to get the money together for pay what he has to payment on that the trial he lost to that woman. Do you think they ought to take his properties? You think they will
I
take
think
his
that's what.
properties?
I think that's what he's already having to do some of that, isn't he? Selling some of them all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how that plays out. Did you know though that constitutionally, now the Supreme Court may get involved. We touched on this on an earlier show. Constitutionally, he could be put in prison and still be president. Right now, he could be found guilty on all these charges and still be president, because a lot of them are federal things and not state things, and there's nothing in the federal statutes, the Constitution, unless you can that 14th Amendment things. Then they've already, some of the courts have already rejected that as a treason type thing. So he seriously now could he carry out the duties of the president from jail? Well, that remains to be seen, and that's when the courts may get involved with that. There may have to be all of this, and I hate putting it all on the hands of the judicial system. I hate like heck to do that, but he seriously could be convicted and still be president, which is something the founding fathers.
Who is the victim? The victim was the woman that he accosted. That's who the victim was.
Well, wait, Bill, are you talking about the fraud trial that's going on in New York, or the no? Okay.
I'm talking about that woman that he accosted in the dressing room in a department store.
Well, there's
so
so
that
many
bond
charges.
was about $90 million, and he found an insurance company to front the bond for him. But the $464 million bond is for the fraud trial in New York, and he can't round up a bond to take his appeal forward. So, I think that's I'm understanding it correctly. Anyway, it's possible that the AG in New York is going to seize his properties and sell them off if he wants to pursue the bond.
Even Andrea says that's an unreasonable bond. $464 million. It's pretty high. I mean, yeah, but he's a billionaire.
Well, it started out at $250 million, and by the time the trial was over, I think he pissed the judge off so badly that he whacked him with a $464 million bond, billion-dollar bond. Excuse me, million.
Mr. Johnson, there was no victim. I'm talking about the woman. What was her name?
E. Jean Carroll.
Yeah. That he accosted. Is that what the $464 million's for? Maybe I'm just wrong.
No, that's the
New York fraud trial.
The New York fraud trial that he defrauded these institutions by inflating his holdings, the value of his holdings. Well, I don't know. You might say the banking system.
Was 20 years.
Good. Bust his ass.
Oh, man. Well, again, it'll all play out. The wild card. Well, if she lost all those cases, maybe she'll lose this one too.
Yep, he did.
Let the evidence be proved.
Hey, listen, if Trump had kept his mouth shut after the first trial, then he would have walked away with a $5 million penalty. But he couldn't keep his mouth shut, so they they, in a second proceeding, nailed him to the tune of $83 million because he would not stop defaming Eugene Carroll. So he's got his own self to blame. It just is, give him enough rope and he'll hang himself.
And that's part of that is a defamation suit, that was here in Georgia too.
Yeah.
And that's already been ruled on in favor of the plaintiffs. Then we've got the other thing that's got to play out here in Georgia. Now, he's catching some breaks. The judge here in Georgia ruled that the DA out there, Fonnie Willis, and I'm sure part of this is political. All of this is political theater.
It really
they
is.
They had to get rid of her assistant, who at one time was her boyfriend, and it wasn't clear when he became her boyfriend. And now that he's left, he's no longer her boyfriend. So it's all plague on both their houses. Find me an honest man with some integrity somewhere, who doesn't stumble all over himself when he's trying to make a point.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Why is Israel so determined to launch an offensive in Rafah?
I don't
Where
know.
all those people are being headed towards. All those people are aimed there. That's where they say, go there, and then they hit that. Is it because that Hamas is going there as well and hiding once again behind people, like the cowards they are?
They've hit a hospital. The Israelis have raided a hospital a time or two because they've said that's where Hamas is hiding. Well, no, I don't like Biden either. But we're moving on from political stuff now. But no, I don't like either one of them. Oh, and if any of the Bidens, Hunter or Joe, if they've done something wrong, they need to be held accountable for that too. But back to the Israeli situation, it's starting to look a little unreasonable on the side of the Israelis. I mean, all of these civilians, and they're dying, they're starving. Okay, you proved your point. You hit them hard, and you killed a whole bunch of them. But now, where are the peacemakers? Why can't we have a ceasefire and sit down and work this out? And if you do that, I think you might get some of the more, what's the word I'm looking for? Cooperative Arab nations, like Saudi Arabia and Egypt and some of the rest of those folks. You might have them have a little more cooperation to try to rein some of these people in.
Well, we haven't heard for at least a week, but there was a set of ceasefire negotiations in process last week. So it could be that that's going to be successful. There'll be some sort of a longer ceasefire where this can be dealt with, that we hear about in the next few days or weeks. Hopefully,
that's the fact. Yeah,
they put their guns down and back away for 6 weeks. And take care of those people.
It's hard to talk to somebody who's holding a gun to your head. So
that's not exactly a negotiation, is it?
No. There's got to be some give and take on both sides. I mean, granted, the Hamas people precipitated all of this. If they'd stayed in their lane, but that was simmering for a long time. There was a lot of resentment over there, and some other things should have probably have been done to forestall this, but it didn't happen. Now we are where we are, with a bunch of people starving and dying, and most of them civilians.
Right. 30,000 plus.
30,000 plus dead.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they've got their revenge on the 1,000 that were killed.
Yeah. I mean, what universe is that a good idea?
Well, speaking of the Jewish faith, the Jews who vote Democrat hate their religion.
Say that again?
Trump said Jews who vote Democrat hate their religion.
That's what he thinks, but did he ask any actual Jewish people if that's what they felt about their religion?
I don't understand the whole, where you got that from. I just heard that quote.
I think Andrea's saying we're supplying Israel with weapons, and so they're not inclined to negotiate while that's happening.
Well, that may be, and I understand that President Biden sat down with Netanyahu and tried to facilitate some more dialogue. You know, I guess we're just going to have to start hitting these people more and more economically. You know, we could probably suck a lot of things into the United States and not trade with a lot of people. I mean, we ship a bunch of our food overseas. You know, we actually ship oil. Okay, y'all don't want us. You don't want to cooperate. Y'all act like a bunch of third graders. Here's what's going to happen. The money is shut off. I think we could do more economically than we probably are doing. That's just my opinion.
I think there is a lot we could do. I think both parties, Republican and Democrat, are in Congress are conflicted because they know what side their bread is buttered on. So if they hesitate to apply any pressure, any real pressure to Israel.
Well, I'm not saying that that the Israelis are totally at fault, but you get to a point where, okay, you've proved your point.
Well, their
now
point
what are we
was,
do?
I don't think they've proven their point yet. According to them, their idea is to rid the world of Hamas in their existence, totally and absolutely done, down to the last man. That's what this guy's going after. He wants to eradicate Hamas.
Well, then how much collateral damage is acceptable?
Obviously a lot. Obviously he doesn't care. You know, and
no, I guess they just pissed him off enough to where y'all all can all be damned.
Yeah, he just does not care. So that's the problem. Is he doesn't care, and he wants to eradicate. He wants to wipe the race gone.
There's still 100 hostages or more held by Hamas that they're trying to get returned, which is another thing that might actually happen if they were able to get to some kind of ceasefire.
Biden is getting grief from the Democrats for not supporting Hamas. So with Trump saying, if you support Democrats, they don't like the religion. It makes sense.
It's an interesting turn of the phrase there, Joel. I don't think Joe Biden is getting grief from the Democrats for not supporting Hamas. I think he's getting grief from some Democrats for not doing more to protect the Palestinian people who are suffering because of Hamas, number one, and Israel's response, number two.
I think that's more likely.
Take care of our own country before we help any other country. We got too many problems here. Well, the thing is that our problems are solvable. We can get somebody with some cojones to do it. A lot of these countries' problems are not really solvable.
Well, and how much of our interest of our country is tied in with the success of Israel or the Ukraine? What price do we pay in the long term for not supporting our allies? It's a tightrope. It's a tightrope they're walking right now. but again, I think economics is probably more the answer than bullets and bombs. But again, that's just me.
Bill, any updates on the construction of that pier on the coast of Gaza where they were going to bring in food and
I
supplies?
haven't heard any. I haven't heard any updates. It said it was going to take a couple of weeks to build it, like 2 weeks.
I haven't heard either.
There hadn't been a thing set on it. How much collateral damage is acceptable or was acceptable to rid the world of Hitler? Pretty good bit of collateral damage. Germany was a pile of rocks at the end of the war. And I agree with you.
I merely asked the question. Now, you can also say, there was a lot of collateral damage when we ended the war in the Pacific by dropping those 2 atomic bombs. But then again, how many more lives would have been lost had we invaded a fortified island of a warrior culture on both sides? Certainly on the side of the Allies. Oh, you talking about Vietnam, Brandon? Oh, I didn't like that one either.
Probably talk about Afghanistan.
Well, I didn't like that one either.
No, we shouldn't have been there.
I didn't. Vietnam was at my era, but I didn't get called. I had a number. If I'd have been drafted, I'd have gone. But I didn't much like it. If you've read anything about the Vietnam War, especially, I recommend reading. We Were Heroes. We Were Soldiers Once. They made a movie out of it with Mel Gibson. I think it's called We Were Soldiers Once Young. It's about the first major battle of the Vietnam conflict. And the Battle of the Ia Drang, and you read about halfway through that book, you start saying, what were we thinking? And what were they thinking? The only thing that war did was get a lot of people killed. I think the difference in Hitler and Hamas, we go back to that, Hitler was very, very close to developing the atomic bomb first. That would have been genocide for a great many races in the world. The stakes were a little different in those days. To rid the world of an evil force. And the Nazis were evil. And again, we dropped those atomic bombs, and I'm sure Truman agonized over that. Do we go the conventional route? The Japanese have already proved they'll fight to the last man with the kamikazes. Or do we go ahead and try to end this thing? And by the way, they kind of knew we had a weapon. We dropped one, and then they kind of knew we had another one. They still didn't surrender, so they dropped another one. Okay, sometimes you get what you ask for.
Shouldn't be in Israel. Let them fight it out with Hamas. We should get our people out and staff. We don't have any people in Israel.
No, we might have some advisors, but we don't have any boots on the ground, and we shouldn't. And I think Brandon's point was well taken. I don't want any boots on the ground in the United States and Israel or Palestine or the Ukraine. Surely we've learned our lesson by now. These are just unwinnable things now. The world of the 1940s. The world of the 1940s was a very different world.
Yes, it was.
All right.
All right. Well, let's go to the next segment of our show. And we'll do that right now.
Well, this is a story I tell a lot of times when I'm doing a history or an English class. And it's the story of the real Red Baron, Manfred von Richthofen. Yeah, there really was a Red Baron, and not the guy that Snoopy talks about fighting in the comic strips. He was the ace of aces, not in World War II, but World War I. He downed at least 80 Allied fighters. And by the way, the real Red Baron doesn't look a thing like the guy on the pizza boxes. The real Red Baron looks more like Dolph Lundgren as Ivan Drago, you know, the guy that fought Rocky. Okay, the real Red Baron looks more like that. And when he met his end at the end of the war, now I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but he got shot down, probably from the ground. He made a mistake, tactical error, which was uncharacteristic of him because he'd had a head wound somewhere during the war that he recovered from, but it might have changed his personality. We all know about head wounds, right? And CTE and all of those things that the NFL sued about. But anyway, he made a mistake and got shot down. They brought his plane in for a controlled landing. They went over to see if they could help him. They say that they took him out, and the last word that he said was kaput, a German word for it's over, I'm done. And he was. But then they gave him a full military funeral with all of the honors, including a 21-gun salute, a funeral cortege, flowers, a priest, the whole 9 yards. Now, why did they do such a thing to a man who had killed at least 80 of their compatriots? I'll tell you, respect. They didn't like him at all, but they respected him a great deal. RESPECT, respect. Many people in 2024 have lost that notion of respect. And we see it every day in our conversations, in our actions, in our politics. Hell, it's even in our schools. Often in the classroom, I will see a few kids not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And as they exit, I sometimes remind them that they should do that, to stand, at least out of courtesy, if nothing else. And my words probably fall on deaf ears, or at least ears stoppered up by earbuds. They may not know or care about the Pledge of Allegiance, but they sure care about those phones, which have gone from being a convenient tool to a lifeline of our very existence. That makes me both sad and a little angry. You see, without respect, there can be no meaningful dialogue. Without respect, we are incapable of seeing the good in other people, or at least the good points they make. Without respect, we are incapable of empathy, of seeing the other person's point of view. Respect apparently is not being taught in the schools or the homes anymore, and that's a damn shame. My daddy, the old World War II era Marine, made sure that in our household we had discipline and we had respect. I've often heard him say, now act like somebody. And I knew exactly what he meant. Act like somebody who's had some raising, who's got some integrity. Without respect, you see, it's a free-for-all of rudeness and narcissism. I fear we are reaping the whirlwind of what we have taught or not taught. It's said for a while that Manfred von Richthofen, the Red Baron, wrote letters to the families of the men he killed, expressing regret, but explaining that this is war and that's what happens. And at the end, when he was killed, that respect was returned. And when that SEAL team took out Osama bin Laden, they threw his body into the ocean. That was sort of a minimal gesture of respect to his Muslim beliefs. I can pretty much guarantee Al-Qaeda, though, wouldn't have shown those SEALs that type of respect. And I long for the day when reasonable dialogue replaces angry shouts and conversation takes the place of bullets and bombs. I hope those days are not gone forever, and we can still do that. I hope, and maybe if enough people do hope, somebody, or maybe all of us somebodies, will take action to bring some respect back into the world. Maybe it's not too late. I sure hope it's not. That's my time out. Thanks for yours. I'm Gary Glenn.
This webcast is brought to you by William Lofton Photography. They can be found at williamlofton.com. Offering event residential portraiture at williamlofton.com.
Okay, I'm going to go as quickly as possible because Bill has a special guest waiting in the wings. So first thing is three things for week 4. Consumer sentiment at 76.5, that's okay. Jobless claims at 208,000, that's okay. And it's not okay that 208,000 people lost their jobs, but jobs are being created at such a rate in our economy that they should be able to turn around and find a new job. The FOMC meeting was yesterday and the Fed chairs conference was today. They're leaving the Fed funds rate at 5.25 to 5.5%. That's a neutral to good thing. Okay, let's look ahead. Last week we did a snapshot. Let's look ahead into the economy over the next few months. And we're going to do that by looking ahead at 4 different measures of our economy: inflation, the FOMC and interest rates, GDP growth, and the stock market. Inflation, looking ahead, is a positive. It's trending in the right direction. There are still prices that are sticky, and slow to change, slow to come down, like groceries, rent, home prices, but it's all trending in the right direction. The FOMC and interest rates is a positive. The Fed meeting confirmed that cuts to the Fed funds rate are coming during this year. So we are looking forward to seeing interest rates come down over time. GDP growth is a positive. We've got sustainable growth in many areas of the economy. The stock market is a definite positive. The market looks ahead, if you will, about 6 months. At the moment, it really likes what it sees 6 months out. So what does all that mean? The economy, consumers, businesses, working people, the government, is going to be okay. In fact, it's likely to be more than okay. If you're working or own a business, you're going to be busy and making money for the next several months. Maybe time to do a home remodel or add a new crew to your business. If we're looking out 4 to 6 months from now, it looks pretty good for things like that. Okay, my time's up, and back to Bill.
Well, here we are. We got 3 minutes to talk, and I'm pleased to have with us our special guest, Corey Aderhold. Going to tell us a little bit about his business. Last time I looked, Corey, you were owning a vape shop, and I came to visit one day, and you had a tattoo studio. Tell me about that. Tell me where you are. Tell me what your hours. Tell me about your tattoo shop.
Yeah, I was vaping, doing a lot of stuff with the industry, and I happened to have a great opportunity to purchase the building literally right next door to the vape shop, because art's always been a part of my life, with my uncle being a pretty well-renowned tattoo artist. So our shop address is 968 Church Street, Royston, Georgia, 30662. Our hours are Tuesday through Saturday, 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. We specialize in a lot of different things, such as realism, color tattoos, fine line, and we also pierce.
Well, there's a lot of pros and cons to tattoos, but one of the things, as far as I'm concerned, I can figure out how to show this. One of my tattoos. There's another one. So obviously I like them. But are there any real safety concerns about with tattoos?
Not as much anymore. depending on the time era in which you got your tattoos, technology has changed so much, and the information and knowledge that's out there has greatly improved. So the UK is doing something where they're banning a lot of colors. The US, luckily with us, we're sponsored by Industry Ink. Hashtag your new favorite ink. They do everything they can to be vegan friendly, and it actually works really great with Georgia's new guidelines. For the first time ever, the state of Georgia has a statewide platform versus county to county, how it's been literally the entire existence of tattooing in the state of Georgia. So safety concerns, biggest thing is don't get tattooed at your friend's house for a pack of beer. Go to a professional.
Makes sense to me. Well, what do you see in the future for your business?
Right now, we're on an approximate 22 to 25% rise. The new generation, thankfully, has a great vision for their body, and the taboo is no longer around like it was back in the early 90s, late 80s, to where, only sailors, army guys, and criminals had tattoos. It's more socially acceptable. I've actually tattooed quite a few of my son's teachers and several local business owners in the city of Royston and surrounding counties.
Cool. Well, Corey, we appreciate you coming in for our 3-minute interview, and you can get all the information you need on Facebook groups, Intelligent Ramblings Friends, and we'll have information posted there. And any questions you might have for Corey or for me as far as tattoos are concerned, go to the Facebook group and ask your questions. Once again, thank you for being here, Corey. And I've already got a good idea for what I want my next tattoo to be.
All right. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we got our finishing remarks. Let's see if I missed any comments. One by Jay Johnson that I didn't respond to because it was past what we were talking about, and I'm trying to find it. Would you keep your mouth shut if you were innocent and found guilty? Well, no, of course I wouldn't, and probably wouldn't. Nobody would. But would it be just the fact that I'm not guilty in my mind, which is a little bit screwy, or was I really not guilty? If I was not guilty, yeah, I'd pitch a fit. Yeah. But if I was guilty and I said I was not guilty, then I probably wouldn't say anything.
Well, truth stands independent of belief.
Yes, absolutely.
And I would add, consider the source. Meaning the person doing the talking is Donald J. Trump.
And you can't believe nothing that comes out of that man's mouth. No doubt about it.
Well, we are missing our colleague William Howington tonight, who is at the NCAA wrestling tournament. And we all wrestled, and we all played football. I'm talking about all of us that are involved in this show. Football to me is the ultimate team sport because you got to have everybody doing his job or his or her job. Now we got some girls that are playing ball, and some of them are pretty good. Some of them are place kickers that are really good. I'm thinking of the girl over in Commerce that was so good as a place kicker. Won games for them until she got taken out. Probably one of the best soccer players in the country too. But I mean, it's the ultimate team sport. But wrestling is one of those ultimate individual sports because if you get your butt kicked, it wouldn't cause the tight end drop the pass or the point guard couldn't hit the free throws or the stupid shortstop booted the ball. It's just because you got your ass whipped. Yep. And I think these are lessons that'll be learned. I value my time. And Bill, I guess, between your dad and Coach Keene, our wrestling coach, and my dad, those were the three men that influenced my life the most as I was growing up. And I'm fortunate we had good men as coaches, not just good coaches, but good men. And I wish
Absolutely
everybody could
agree.
have that experience.
Yeah,
I wish everybody could have that
100%
experience.
agree with that.
Absolutely agree.
You know.
Well, guys,
Yeah.
I appreciate it. And thank you for everybody that tuned in. And thank you for people that come in. And wanted to thank the people that come in and watch our show. I actually heard somebody say that they didn't watch it. They just listened to it in the background as they're doing things, which is fine with me. And I want to thank the people that come in and watch the show after it's aired, and because maybe they're at work at this time every Wednesday night. But nobody's got anything else to say. I guess that's the end of the show, and we will see you guys next Wednesday. Good night.
Good night.